Coming up next on Arizona Horizons Journalists Roundtable, state lawmakers pass a controversial religion bill that now awaits the governor's approval. And State Treasurer Doug Ducey makes it official he wants to be Arizona's next governor. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizons Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic, Howard Fisher of Capital Media Services, and Mike Sunnix of the Phoenix Business Journal. Well, a controversial bill that extends religious protection to private transactions and allows religious belief as a defense against lawsuits passes the legislature and awaits a decision by the governor. And Mary Jo, not since SB 1070 have we had this much attention on a bill. This is big time stuff here.
Very much. That vote in the Senate, followed by yesterday's vote in the House, just lit the match on this fuse, and this thing has taken off. It's it's a national topic now. What will Governor Brewer do? Will Arizona become the first state to enact, as far as we know, the first state to enact a law such as this?
And what's interesting is there already is a law that similar to this governing state action that says if you are a business and you want to use your religious rights, you can do that, and then you have to show you have a sincere belief, and then the state can come back and show, well, we have a compelling government interest that you can't kill your firstborn. This extends it to civil suits. In other words, if Mary Jo wants to deny service to me. And that's where we've gone over the edge. Now, Kathy Herod from the Center for Arizona Policy says, oh, this is just a minor tweak in the law. Well, as Mary Jo points out, no other state has gone this far, and there are enough folks who see it, even if it is a minor tweak, as a message to the gay community, we don't want you here.
Well, the business folks have kind of come out against this much stronger than they did with 1070 at GPEC, the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, the Technology Council. Some other folks came out against it. They worry about the image it's going to send about the state to talented people, to companies, high-tech companies, and pretty strong opposition to it. Some of the mainline lobbying business groups down there are still kind of staying away from this. And it's kind of interesting. It's kind of where you start at with this issue. The people that are against it see 1070 and what they think that did to the state. They see the national coverage, the Daily Show, the stories about Arizona being intolerant. The people on the right, the Kathy Herod folks, see Hobby Lobby. They see that. They see these government mandates from the Obama administration, government intrusion, telling people of faith how they have to conduct their business. And so it's kind of, everybody sees it through a different lens.
The timing on this is very interesting too, because right after Google announces that the Valley is a site that they're considering for expansion, and everybody's very excited about this economic opportunity, I think the day that story was out, it was the day that the Senate voted passed the bill.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that, talk about Hobby Lobby, again, nothing in this law, existing law or the expansion, precludes a person from claiming that. You still got that balancing test there. But it becomes the message. It becomes, as Mike said, the business community. When Barry Brube says, within hours of Thursday night's vote, I got calls from businesses saying, we're no longer interested. We got folks saying that are here saying, I've got customers canceling. And that makes a difference.
I suspect, though, that hindsight being what it is, the businesses are like, why weren't we speaking up before? I mean, really, where were they? If this bill is offensive today, it was offensive, last week. And what I'm told is that they opted to try to work quietly behind the scenes. They thought they could convince lawmakers to do this. This thing passed out on straight party lines in the Senate.
And three Republicans in the House. Three Republicans who broke ranks. The same folks, some of them who voted for Medicaid expansion with the governor. The real key is, governor's in Washington. She comes back Monday, can have the bill on her desk, has till Friday or Saturday to sign it. The pressure's on her from the business community. And now we have Republicans like Ken Bennett running for governor, like Christine Jones running for governor, like Scott Smith running for governor. Two of the three people are LDS, and saying, as much as we believe in religious rights, we think this is a bad idea, that this is an unnecessary move that only serves to create problems.
Back to the current governor, let's say she gets it on her desk Monday. If she's going to veto this, if she were to veto this, wouldn't it be wise to veto it immediately, because every day that passes, let's say you wind up vetoing on Friday, that's 4 extra days of bad publicity.
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
4 Daily Show segments that they can run about us, and our reputation precedes us as part of this issue. I think nationally people look at Arizona for these types of things, on immigrants, on some of the political climate here. And yeah, I think the business folks that are concerned about this and opposed to this would want this taken care of before. I think some of the chambers down there that haven't taken a stance on this, they didn't want to really see this happen. They're tight with the Republican caucus down there, and so they want these tax breaks for Apple, tax breaks for their other companies, and they try to stay away from these social things even when it impacts them. You kind of saw this with 1070. Same kind of thing. They were kind of slow, much slower. They're a little bit faster this time, but they don't want to step on Republican toes.
But you've got another factor at work. This is a woman of deep religious faith. I mean, I watched her several years ago address a group of Lutheran ministers, and she talks about that you don't govern from religion, but you don't leave your religion at the door. And I know that the idea of somebody being forced to do something against their beliefs, is an issue for her. So I don't think this is a slam dunk for her one way or the other.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in terms of the businesses that maybe have kept quiet, it does, and now these threats of boycotts or leaving the state, not considering it for expansion, it sort of underscores the point that many make that it's not just tax breaks that bring business here. It's a quality of life, it's the environment that we create in Arizona, and this is seen as a potential black mark. In his veto, in his letter to the governor urging a veto, Barry Broom from the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, said we've got 4 companies that we're working with through the Commerce Authority that said they're not coming if this thing becomes law. And we have that Super Bowl, where all the eyes of the world are going to be on us.
You've got a lot of things going on in Arizona right now, a lot of high-profile things that could obviously be targeted if this were to go. But real quickly, mentioned Bennett, mentioned Scott Smith, and Christine Jones, and Doug Ducey?
Oh, he's in the closet on this one. I mean, look, the fact is we got a non-statement statement saying, well, I'm a businessman, I'm a man of faith, and I'm going to consider this, and I'm going to weigh my options. Look, he has, it's hard for him to take positions on anything. I mean, look at some of the stuff that's occurred on some of the bills that we've asked him about over the years.
This sounds like him on Medicaid. It took Ducey a year, and long after the governor had acted, to make clear his position on Medicaid.
And the backer of Ducey is Kathy Herron,
yes.
Center for Arizona Policy. They're the main group pushing that, so it'd be interesting if he's going to break ranks with her on that, or is he going to stick with her? And people of faith, social conservatives, have this feeling that they're under duress in the political realm. They see same-sex marriage at the national level in other states. They see these mandates from the Affordable Care Act, and they have this perception that their religious liberties are being threatened. Every time you talk to CAP or somebody, they say people shouldn't have, including business owners, shouldn't have to check their religious liberties at the door when they come in.
Right, but in this case, what is the problem that we're trying to fix? What's broken? We have not seen any evidence of this.
But real quickly, this photography incident in New Mexico, it seems to have driven this entire issue. Do we know if the contract was made and the photographer pulled out at the last second? Do we know anything about this incident?
Well, the issue has to do with New Mexico law, which does grant protected status based on sexual orientation.
Law.
Exactly. That's the point. You can discriminate now, and that comes back to Mike's point. There is no problem here. It's not like suddenly, religious businesses are being told you now have to serve gays. If you don't want to go to Chick-fil-A, who's a guy who does wear his religion on his shoulder, you don't have to. If he wants to say no gays allowed, he's free to do that under existing law.
But their perception is the Obamacare mandates for contraception, abortion-inducing pills. They see those things as part and parcel of the Chick-fil-A stuff, and they see themselves under this attack, whether it's true or not, whether there's protection under law. They see this, and you're correct, they see this as a concern for them. They see themselves as people of faith, that they're not allowed to show their faith in their business or in their public life.
But the fact is that will be, the Hobby Lobby and all that will be decided by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will look at the federal law that some of this is modeled after and say, do they have a sincerely held religious belief? Does the government have a compelling interest? And is this the least restrictive way of getting that interest?
So some of the critics will be saying that if you're a Muslim taxi cab driver, can refuse to pick up a Jew. If you're a conservative Christian taxi cab driver, you can refuse to pick up someone who's wearing a burqa or a headscarf. I mean, how far does this go?
I talked to a guy who was outside the Capitol this morning, and he says, well, I get a double whammy because I'm a Buddhist and I'm gay. And I said, but really, realistically, how much would this come up? And he goes, if I'm sitting in a cafe and I'm talking to my friend and we're talking about religion and somebody overhears as the owner and they object, then he fears that he could get refused service.
Not only that,
everyone's a victim in this thing. You talk to people that are against it,
right?
The gay rights folks, religious minorities, single moms, they could all be victimized by this. But then you talk to the folks for it, the Christian folks, the evangelical folks, they feel like they're being victimized.
They say their folks are victimized because they can't go ahead and say, I don't want to serve you because I don't like the fact that you and your boyfriend are holding hands and you're coming into my restaurant.
So everybody's starting at these similar points, but on complete polar opposites.
But again, you can kick the couple, that gay boyfriend, out right now under existing law. Now, there's one small caveat to that. We have Phoenix, Tucson, Flagstaff.
Yes, explain that dynamic.
Now they have laws which do extend protections based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, I talked to the city attorney in Tucson this afternoon. He said, look, first of all, we're already subject to the government regulations. Now, 1062 extends this to person, but you'd have that same test. You want to deny service, then you get hauled into court. You have to prove a sincerely held religious beliefs. Then the person who wants the service has to say, well, there's a compelling interest. So, for all the talk of the broad, far-reaching implications, in a lot of ways, Kathy Heard is right on one thing. This is a very small move. It's the message it sends that I think is the big key.
In your opinion, this is an opinion question, so we won't go too far on it, but does a tin ear down there at the legislature, did they see this coming? Did they not understand that this kind of backlash would occur?
I think it's the lens that they start with. They look at where they're coming from their, the social conservatives have a lot of influence down there. Kathy Herod's group has a lot of influence down there. And it's another way, I think they see this as thumbing their nose at federal mandates, which they love to do with the EPA and other issues. So I think their starting point, I think they have a tin ear in terms of the national image of Arizona and the media coverage of Arizona.
Let me go a step beyond that. They now have a tin ear to the business community. I'll give you a perfect example. Common Core, the business community came in. The lobbyists for the Phoenix Chamber said, if you get rid of these standards and go back to 1999 standards, we will not hire Arizona grads. Guess what the Republicans on the Senate Education Committee voted to do? They voted to get rid of Common Core.
But
the business community is here, and the legislature is there.
Well, and that particular Common Core bit, that's going nowhere. The governor would never sign it.
The governor will never sign it. But the fact that you have the Republicans in the legislature so out of step with supposedly their allies in the business community on this, on Common Core, on Medicaid expansion, suggests a disconnect there.
Who from the legislature is even talking about it in opposition to it in the Republican caucus? You see Barry Broom, you see the Tech Council, you see all kinds of different groups come out, gubernatorial candidates, but you don't see, there's no lawmakers down there really leading the charge.
But you do wonder if the business community had spoken up in a more vocal way, in a public way, this thing might not have gotten out of, it probably would have been stopped in the Senate.
You say the same thing.
Did they not think it was going to happen? Did they think this was just some sort of...
They thought they could work it and stop it quietly. They don't want to make a big stink because they have other, as Mike pointed out, other items that they want to accomplish.
This is a civil war. We're like some folks in the business community wanted to take on the social conservatives on some issues over Medicaid and stuff, and now they've got something. And I don't know if they really wanted this type of national civil war.
Yeah, so this will be interesting. Who knows what the governor will do, when it gets to her desk. But we have a different playing field for campaigns, and as you said, the natural constituency for the Republicans is the business community. Well, I don't know. Not for a lot of the Republicans that are down at the legislature. They haven't been dependent on business contributions to get elected. Well, with our higher campaign limits, that changes the playing field, and we'll see who gets that Chamber of Commerce, deep-pocketed business backing. And I don't think they're going to look real favorably on a lot of folks who are really, very hard right on these social issues.
Although that gets to one more footnote to the whole thing, which is clean elections money. Part of the reasons, that some folks don't like clean elections money is that you've got a few folks from the wackadoodle contingent, alleged wackadoodle contingent, who get elected with clean elections money because they get, a certain number of $5 donations, and all of a sudden, hey, they've got a war chest.
With that in mind, let's move on to, and we talk about this all show, but this big ProPublica piece on dark money, the Koch brothers in particular. We had Randy Kendrick over at the Goldwater Institute mentioned in the story, wife of Ken Kendrick, owner of the Diamondbacks. I mean, everyone, Sean Noble, we had Kirk Adams, a former speaker, was mentioned. You might have been mentioned. This was a long story.
This was a very long,
detailed.
detailed
Well, you know,
investigation.
he's on the Koch brothers payroll.
Are you
I
really?
have not taken any Koch brothers money.
Okay.
I would probably have a better looking suit if I had a Koch brothers. This is a long story about Sean Noble, former chief of staff for John Shadegg, and how they kind of used him to funnel money essentially to all these various conservative groups in various states. Kind of his rise in the Koch brothers, kind of behind the scenes funneling of cash around to various campaigns, and a little bit of his fall in that he seems to not be a favored son of the Koch brothers machine anymore. But it's really kind of an indictment on our political situation in general after Citizens United, and just how secret money is flowing around to different states, Wisconsin, California, different races, and how these groups on the conservative side are moving this money around in really secretive ways.
Yeah, what's fascinating is not just the funneling of the money, but the following the chain of how where the money moves from one nonprofit to another nonprofit, that's another nonprofit, which is part of the reason, a large reason, that Senator Michelle Reagan has introduced her bill and got a hearing this week on a dark money bill, which the intent is to try to at least disclose who is the root source.
The original,
the root source of this money. Some people say you're never going to really get to that, but her bill passed out of committee on a unanimous vote, although it had a very tepid reception.
Well, and you've got other assignments. You know, where does it go? Does it even die in rules? But there's another problem that Michelle's bill is going to have, and that has to do with some court cases. Clearly, if you have express advocacy, vote for Mike, vote against Mary Jo, you have to report. Now, if you can chase back these Russian nesting dolls, you know, great. So much of what is being run now is called educational campaigns, informational things. So, for example, the campaign against Tom Horn in 2010 funded by Democratic Attorney Generals didn't say vote against Horn. It said that when he was state school superintendent, he allowed a teacher in a classroom who might have had some child pornography, and that when he was a state lawmaker, he voted against increased penalties for statutory rape. Again, we're only educating the public, and these are exempt in general from law, and that our law, which said they're supposed to be considered express advocacy, was overturned by a trial judge.
Indeed, and I think everyone down at the Capitol understands this, or at least is aware of this. Was there a response down there when the ProPublica piece ran, and you had these names, and you had all of this info? It doesn't look good. I mean, it doesn't look good, but my question is, what was the response down there? Was it just hey, that's the way it is?
That I didn't see any shock there. I mean, other than maybe some feigned shock by a few Democrats, but it was sort of, yeah, we knew that. Any of us who followed, Kirk Adams' money in the California initiatives and in the Arizona measures already knew that. We already knew it could be traced back to Sean, which could be traced back perhaps to the Koch brothers.
Is Sean Noble, Kirk Adams, are they still big players down at the Capitol? Big enough players?
Well, if they have the money. I mean, you don't see them down there, but
you don't know, in other words.
But you don't know, in other words, and they get involved sometimes in ways on ballot measures where it has nothing to do with, well, I don't need to affect legislation. I can pass something, I can kill something.
Yeah, and I would agree with Howie that I didn't detect any great reaction out of the state capitol. But one thing that was, I thought, new from this report, because we did know about how the Koch money seemed to be playing in some of the 2012 elections, was there was also some of that money went into the fight against the redistricting commission. About $150,000 went to this group called Fair Trust, which bird-dogged the whole redistricting process and has been involved in litigation that's still before the courts on whether lines were properly drawn.
Yeah, I don't think the Republicans down there cared at all. You mentioned the Koch brothers. All they think about is George Soros. They think the other side's doing the same thing and funneling this money. And it creates a lot of cynicism because you got all these names, Americans for Economic Prosperity. You don't even know what side of the issue they're on.
Sure.
You don't even know where they're from or what they're doing. And they just run, like Howie said, they just run negative ads against one camp or the other.
All right, we mentioned Doug Ducey before. He makes it official. He is running for governor. No one really surprised
I'm
by
shocked.
this. Yes.
Shocked.
And he's already raised more money than any of the announced or unannounced candidates.
Well, it's good to have a few contacts. Some of them perhaps introduced to him by Kathy Herod. He had announced early in the filing system, thinking he was going to scare off perhaps Mayor Smith, scare off perhaps a Ken Bennett. Well, that clearly wasn't going to happen. He may need all that money because at this point he's still an unknown. I mean, people may have heard the name. They may or may not know they used to run Cold Stone Creamery, but unless he starts giving out some mint chip ice cream, people are going to say, Doug who?
Yeah, can you handicap very early, obviously, but how much of I mean, who's moving fast here and who's kind of standing still?
I think you talked to a lot of the consultants in there. They say don't fall asleep on Christine Jones. She's got a lot of money. People think she's got a ton of money. She's the only woman in the race. She's with GoDaddy. People kind of know that company. She's got business background. Now she has the DUI and appeared in the commercials. And she's not really known to people. But if she's in a crowded field with a bunch of male names and she comes out as a fairly mainstream conservative Republican,
Even in the primary.
Even the primary, I think that benefits her if it's a really crowded field and nobody else steps forward. I think the one thing you talked about Ducey's name ID, same thing with Scott Smith and Ken Bennett. These guys have been in elected office for a while. They have people around them. Everyone around them knows them, but the regular folks, they don't know them. That Earl DeBerge poll showed nobody knew anybody. It was her and Andy Thomas because why? She's got a female name, she's different, and Andy Thomas has some name ID.
Well, part of the issue in terms of some of these folks is going to be in terms of Christine. Yes, she's got a lot of money. She's also spent it, and we still don't know who she is, which is one of the issues. Being the only female in the race, could have some impact. She's also cozied up very nicely to Joe Arpaio, and that could open some doors for her and perhaps find her some votes. But it is really too early to handicap. And that's part of what makes it interesting in terms of what we started with today, to see who's jumping out on 1062, to see who's staking out different positions.
And that's why, I think we're up to 8 or 9 candidates on the Republican side for governor. I mean, it's, it wouldn't take a lot of votes to win in a field like that. So, people I talk to say, do not count out Andy Thomas. Don't, maybe don't even count out Senator Al Melvin.
Well, and what's important is they're both running with public money. If they get $5,005 donations, they get a check for $700-some thousand. At that point, they're in it to stay.
And we emphasize again, you got to get out of the primary. And you can't get out of that Republican primary by being too far toward the center.
Who is, though?
Well, we had two out of three people today say they didn't like this religion
if this
bill.
issue continues to blow up like 1070, and you have Ducey, who hasn't taken a stance, if he sticks with Kathy Herod and Cap and backs this thing, he may have a certain percentage of the vote of the religious right with him, while you got these other 3 with the business community. And last time I checked, there's more social conservatives voting than there are business people.
Before we go, a panel okays this bill on initiative revotes, the idea of going back and looking at voter-approved measures every 8 years or so to make sure the voters knew what they were doing 8 years ago.
Over and over and over. It says anything with money attached, they have to revote. Well, that means clearly, first things first. That means Indian gaming.
Clean elections.
Clean elections,
Minimum
all of that
wage.
stuff. The minimum wage is a little trickier because it doesn't involve state money and depends on who you talk to on
But
that.
the Industrial Commission has to spend some manpower to
And that's part of the
estimate
problem
those
with the wording of
increases.
it. I think you're going to have a problem in there in the sense that all of a sudden folks are going to say, we're going to put how many of these on the ballot in 2016 if this 2014 measure
And
passes?
what's the answer, Howie?
Well, the answer depends on who you talk to. Maybe 24, because we can't tell. But here's the one thing going for it in terms of, or going against it perhaps. This in itself has to be approved by voters.
Exactly.
And so if the voters want to say we'd like it every 8 years, but I think you're going to find a coalition of so many groups. You put the Indians in there with their money because they don't want to revisit tribal gaming. You get the Sierra Club folks, you get the folks, the Arizona Lottery exists in a lot of ways and gets re-upped every few years.
And those are a lot of folks that will be driven to the polls by something like this.
Yes.
Well, you could have
move?
unintended consequences, right? You have these
Exactly.
Republicans that hate voter-mandated things, and they want to have voters keep coming out for things they like, minimum wage, Indian casinos, those type of lottery. That could, first things first, that could actually help Democrats. I mean, you've seen races such as Janet beating Matt Salmon, that she was infinitely helped by the tribes turning out for that
Which is
gaming compact.
exactly why, to get to our last subject, the legislature finally repealed the election law bills because they didn't want the damn thing on the ballot because, heaven forbid, it'll bring out Democrats.
Any piecemeal things introduced yet?
Not yet, but
I thought
come
Kavanaugh
on.
had something
Wait
going.
till the week of Sunny Day.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, then
You'll be seeing a lot of strikers. You'll be
Okay.
seeing a lot of last minute things.
Gangway.
But but I think you'll see the permanent early voting list is the most likely one in terms of that.
Okay, got to stop it right there. Good discussion. Good to have you here. Monday on Arizona Horizon, Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton joins us for his monthly update on Phoenix issues, and we'll check out a photo exhibit dedicated to the inspiring stories of World War II veterans. That's Monday evening, 5:30 and 10 on Arizona Horizon. Tuesday, meet ASU's new athletic director and hear about his vision for Sun Devil sports. Wednesday, it's Southern Exposure, a look at the latest news from in and around Tucson. Thursday, art that demonstrates the role of pop culture in everyday life. And Friday, it's another edition of the Journalists Roundtable. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.